Dear learners and students, welcome to the fifth lecture. I am Dr. Imtiazul Huda, Assistant Professor in the Department of Islamic Studies. What we learned from the previous lectures, let us discuss the what are the learning outcome from this lecture, what we have understand, and how we can do justice with the topic Faraizi movement. First of all, the information, the thing that we learn, then the thing we draw from the lecture is that this particular movement was founded by Haji Shariatullah, who was the reformer and the revivalist leader of the 18th and the 19th century, as he was born in 1781. And he laid foundation to the movement after he returned back from Arabia in 1880, just in the first quarter of the 19th century. What he observed in his society, that the Muslims are not the pious one. Their religious beliefs are at stake. They doesn't follow a true teaching of Islam. They even doesn't know to read the Quran. They doesn't know the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad. They doesn't even know what are the addresses of the Sharia. So first of all, we learned that Haji Shariatullah has put a special emphasis on obligatory duties. The first, that we have to strictly follow the thing that are compulsory or obligatory on the Muslims. For this one, as I have said, he laid foundation and he named after the term first his movement as Faraizi. It is just because of that one. From first, he named it as Faraizi, talking about the obligatory duties that has to be strictly followed by the peoples. Further, we can say we learned that this movement was an outcome from the teaching of the Wahhabi movement. Why? From 1799 till 1818, almost for 2 decades, Haji Shariatullah was in Arabia. And at that time in Arabia, the Wahhabi movement was in full swing. The peoples were strictly adhering to the principles of the Wahhabi movement. No, Haji Shariatullah learned many things about the Wahhabi and he understood that the teachings of the Wahhabi movements are accurate and perfect. And he had in his mind that my people at East Bengal are not the practicing Muslims, are not the God fearing Muslims, are not firm on their faith. So when he returned back, he tried to address such issues that were constantly hitting him. So that's why He talked about the first, the obligatory duties. So it is an outcome that he had understood how to draw the people toward the true Islam. The Islam which is talking about its identity, about the firmness in faith. Further, we learn from this lecture that Haji Shariatullah, while making a call of his movement, emphasized on the strict following of the Quran, that the Quran should be strictly followed. First of all, it should be read, it should be understood. What is the message of the Quran? What is the demand of the Quran? And what Allah Almighty needs from the people, the human beings, through Quran. And as well as he emphasizes on the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad. Like Wahhabi, he also insisted on the Sunnah because the Sunnah is a guide, a role model for the people to follow. Because the Sunnah is a way, method, speech, thought of the Prophet Muhammad. The way he has acted, the way he has dealt the issues he had. That's why Haji Sharifullah insisted on the adherence to the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad. Further, as I have said, it has also changed as its scenario. The followers of the movement started adhering to the Hanafi fiqh. Now, what is the Hanafi fiqh? A fiqh, a school of jurisprudence, which was founded by Imam Abu Hanifa. And it was Imam Abu Hanifa who talked about the various juristic issues and had interpreted the issues in the light of the Quran and the Sunnah, and as well as in the light of his reasoning. So the Hanfi fiqh also became an integral part of the Faraizi movement. Further, we learned that this particular movement emphasized on Tawheed. It emphasized on Tawbah, as I have said, emphasized on the Sharia. And all simultaneously, all obligatory and fundamental teachings and the duties of Islam that has to be strictly followed by every Muslim. Then they can become a devout Muslim, a pious Muslim, a God fearing Muslim. After all, we all have to return back. So we have to make preparation in this world for our life after this life. So by having, by following the concept of Tawheed, by making repentance for their misdeeds, wrong deeds, evil deeds, and as well as being firm on the Sharia, and as well as practicing the fundamental teaching and duties of Islam, one can become a perfect. Further, we also learn from this lecture that initially, as I have said earlier, during the time of Haji Shariatullah, this movement was the nature was of socio-religious one. It was the socio-religious reform movement, and it was instrumental in uplifting the Muslims of East Bengal of the British India. But we learned that after the demise of Haji Shariatullah in 1840, when the reign of the Faraizi movement, when the charge of the Faraizi movement came in the hand of the son of Haji Shariatullah, Mohsinuddin Ahmad Zuzurian. What he has done, he changed the nature of the movement. Now, from here onward, this movement became a religious political movement. Now, it started talking about the political awareness among the people. We also learned from this lecture that after Haji Shariatullah, a new dimension was added in the region. And that dimension was considering the land of East Bengal, that is under the control of the Britishers, as Darul Harb, the enemy land. Now, because in that land, they are subjected to tyranny and oppression. That's why they consider this land as Darul Harb. Further, some new thing were added by Zuzumia that he had given a verdict that the congregational prayer, like the Jummah and the two Eid prayers, Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Azha, the lesser and the greater Eid, that these congregational prayer are not compulsory to be offered by the Muslim because they are living in Darul Harb, and in Darul Harb, Muslim can't offer the congregational prayer. They can offer the prayer individually only. Congregational prayer can be offered only in Darul Islam, where the rule is of Islam, where the state is of Islam. Only there they can perform. This dimension was added by Suzuki. Further, when we learn about more outcomes, what we find that this movement advocated for the direct action against the landlord and the British administration. If the people get united, so they should raise up their force and they should take direct action against the tyrant landlords and the British administration, which are causing trouble to the people of the East Bengal. Further, we learned that the movement has mobilized a Muslim peasantry class against the oppressive tax, the taxes that were imposed by the landlord and the Britishers. There were some official taxes, but there were some undisclosed taxes that were imposed by the landlords and the Britishers that were not declared, but for their own benefit and welfare, they had imposed taxes on the peasant class. It was against the unjust and land practices. Wherever they wish, they confiscate the land. Whatsoever they want, they try to use the land for their own purpose. For example, I have said about the Industrial Revolution in Bengal. They confiscated the land of the peasants, which they own, and had set up their own industry on the land. They had set up many more things, their churches also, their religious places also. And they are started advocating their own culture. So it was against that one. This movement was against that one. And as well as this particular movement, we learned that this movement was against the forced labor, against the bonded labor. Further, and in the last, we can say that this particular movement had focused on socio-economic upliftment. It has talked that by mobilizing the society on the religious ground, they can talk about the welfare of the people. They can talk about the employment opportunities. And through the employment opportunities, they can elevate economically the society. And they had established welfare programs so that they can understand the ways and method of socially uplifting themselves and as well as economically uplifting themselves. Further, they had also set, setting the injustice and disputes. They had made an arrangement that so whatsoever the dispute they have within themselves, this to be settled. Any sort of dispute, whether the division dispute, whether the household dispute, whether the juristic dispute, they had to be settled. So they had worked on that one, just to try to bind the people, to to make them one. They want to unite the people. Further, as I have said earlier, we learn from this lesson that it has promoted the education among the Muslim community. And as I have stressed upon that one, education is important. Uneducated person can't grow anymore. It is education that bring dimension in his understanding. So, my dear student, through Faraizi movement, the general perception that we have understood that this particular movement was about the welfare of the people of the East Bengal. It had addressed the issues, the basic issues that the peoples of the East Bengal were facing. It had addressed the issues of the peasants. It has addressed the issues of the oppression. It has addressed the economic instability. As I have said just now, it addressed the education system. And by this particular movement had played a very important and significant role in uniting the people of the East Bengal, especially the Bengali Muslim. And it has infused that how to practice a true faith. What are the key things by which we can follow a good or we can lead a good life. So this particular movement was about leading a good and quality of life. Okay, thank you very much, dear students.